Welcome to the June edition of the Patch Tuesday Support Group, a safe place to talk about patching and cry into our beverages of choice. My name is Bryan, I'm a patch lover extraordinaire here at Patch My PC. I'm joined as always, or almost always, by Jordan and Jake. And we are joined this month by special guest Angie Chen. As I'll let you introduce yourself for a hot second.
Is that me?
That's you. Everyone knows who Jordan and Jake are. You're the new one.
All right. Hey, everyone. Good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining. My name's Angie. I am a PM at Microsoft in the Windows Update Experience team. So my team owns the update stack on the client that is responsible for orchestrating and downloading and installing your Windows updates. And so, yeah, I'm happy to be here with you all. And yeah, happy to answer any questions that you might have as well.
Sweet. Okay. So the normal agenda is in play. Jordan's going to talk to us about some vulnerabilities and give us some stats. Jake's going to monitor the chat and interrupt us with anything particularly interesting. I will do the news, and then we'll hand it off to Angie. She's going to talk about some stuff that she's been working on recently. And then, when that's all said and done, we'll open up for Q&A and stick around as long as we can, or you all want us to. So with that, I hand it over to you, Jordan.
Awesome. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and share out the old Power BI report here in just a moment, assuming that I can remember how to share in Zoom. Turns out it feels like they change it every month, but they don't. That's just me not being familiar.
Is that Power BI report going to be available on the website, Jordan?
Yeah, Jordan.
Yeah, screenshots might be, maybe, possibly. And someday, if you dream hard enough, it will also be available so that you can click on the website. We're working on figuring out how that looks like. We do have some screenshots up there for it this month. But eventually we will make it so that you can maybe click on it or do something with it above and beyond just looking at it and going, man, I'd love to have that to show to my manager, and me going, can't have it. It's mine. So anyways, news from this month. We had 47 unique total monthly KBs. That's 47 unique of them. That number may change slightly between 47 and 49, depending on how you count and what news articles you're looking at for it. So don't blame me if you go 47, he's a liar. No, it just depends on how many days you count and whether you're only counting the ones that came out on Patch Tuesday or not. There were about 56 unique vulnerabilities that came out along the way. 28 of those were critical, and 18 of them were important along the way, as well as a few moderates that were hiding away under the rocks. In general, we had only one actual unique, more technically speaking. I need to fix this. This should be slightly higher here. Update this month versus last month in CVEs total for it. The actual CVEs, there was one more last month than this month in terms of CVEs that actually came out for it. And this month we had more total overall KBs. And there's a fun reason for that we'll talk about in a little bit here. Some fun impact in terms of what updates were included this month. Of those vulnerabilities, there were 6 denial of service updates or fixes, 14 elevation of privilege fixes, 18 information disclosure fixes, 26 remote code execution fixes, 3 security feature bypass fixes, and 2 spoofing fixes. Now, for those of you who are familiar, you know that this is the part of the show where we talk about any particular unique patches that you should pay extra close special attention to. And it turns out this month there's really, really one that you should pay all kinds of a crazy attention to, and that is going to be CVE 2025-33053. Again, that's CVE 2025-33053. Turns out WebDAV, which for those of you unfamiliar, it's old, it's been around for a long time. It has reached up out of the grave like a Frankenstein monster that it is and would like to talk to you. It is a vulnerability that basically is around an IE, an Internet Explorer, that thing that is like, hello, who uses that anymore? Turns out we all still have it on our computers, even running Windows 11. It's there. In fact, if you go to the Internet Options option, and if your zones are managed by administrator, if you go to the settings page, you can still make Internet Explorer open on your Windows 11 machine if you're really desperate about it. And it is impacting so many older versions of operating systems that Microsoft has taken a Well, a rare instance of where it is patching unsupported and releasing patches for old unsupported operating systems, including things like old versions of Windows 10, as well as old versions of Windows Server, like all the way back to Server 2012. I did not see anything for like XP old, at least, there on the list of patches that got released, but there was Windows 10, there was 2012, I think there was a 2008 server patch for it. If you are using things where you are using custom things on servers where you're leveraging it for stuff like, I don't know, OSD and odd things like that. I know the PowerShell, I think the PowerShell OSD toolkit, the PowerShell MDT kit, uses WebDAV for some of the IIS settings for things like that. Stuff like that, you'll want to pay special attention to this update just in general. It's very large, it's very talked about in the news, and it's very, very much so there already active exploitation code out in the wild for it. Awesome. That all being said, let's go ahead and jump on over and look at the patches that have come out from us this month. So this month from Patch My PC, there have been 1,669 total unique updates, of which 15 of them were Google Chrome, once again. 21 of them were from Microsoft Edge, 16 of them were for Firefox, and 10 for Opera. Microsoft Edge takes home the crown this year in terms of number of updates released for the browser wars. In terms of total unique vulnerabilities that came up this month that we helped fix, there were 44 unique vulnerabilities, and there was spread across about 52 products, aka that's every time you see a product spread out multiple times throughout the entirety of an environment. For all of the updates along the way, most of them fell into the bucket of moderate this month, 1,293, but a very large number of them fell into critical, with about 198 out there that were actively critical for it. A lot of the updates that we had this month were, in fact, just updates. They were just updates to products to them, as well as a small percentage here of drivers for it. One thing to note in terms of special patch notes from this month, in terms of updates that did come out, is Google Chrome. Google Chrome somehow managed to release a bug about 5 days ago that was a 0-day. That was 2025-5419. Again, that's 2025-5419 along the way. That was a 0-day vulnerability that came out due to a out-of-bounds read-write error for it. Then in JavaScript as well as WebAssembly, which, you know, JavaScript, it's everywhere. So you should be mildly concerned of that probably. And then managed to reopen the same vulnerability basically like 2 days later with CVE 2025-5068. That one I have not seen a patch for yet on it. Oh no, there is a patch for it already for it looks like as well for that one. But just something to know about. There's lots of very high vulnerability Google Chrome specific updates that have come out this past month, as is, it seems, tradition at this point. Shameless plug here. I was able to get a lot of this information a lot faster this month through CVE Insights. So I was able to actually use the filter in the analytics view to be able to go and look back at the last 30 days to check out what are all the vulnerabilities that have popped out this month. Now, I do want to show one new thing that we have been working on here for you. So I'm going to stop my screen share and restart it here in a moment. Jake has been hard at work in the salt mines for all of you so that you can benefit. I'm going to go ahead and showcase this. This should be available to you now. If you would like to navigate here, you are welcome to do so. Go ahead and hit share. We have built out an automation test kit now that tests all of these software updates against a set of servers. It's a very small set of servers for now, but we have a proof of concept where we actively roll out and test, rolling all of the updates, downloading them and testing them against a set of virtual machines, checking did they succeed, did they not, what was the average install uptime for the patch, how much content was actually downloaded as well. In the future, we want to add some expansion to this. This is an early version of this report, just keep that in mind. There might be some bugs in the page here as it kind of loads along the way of visibility for it, and we will keep adding things like unit tests or test integrations and things like that, like what happened if it was an update was running on a ConfigMgr server that month or other stuff like that in the future. But for now, if you come down here, you can hit server 2222-1 and you can actually view and see, oh, this was the update. Here's the KB article. The API said it was going to be this large. It only actually downloaded 468.47 megs to be able to install and update it. And it only took 6 minutes to actually install. And oh yes, it did actually require a reboot, despite the fact the reboot was told by the API that it wouldn't require one. So we've got some useful information here. We hope this is helpful. We're going to keep expanding on this month over month. And if you guys have any feature requests for this, you should send them all straight to No, you can just send them to us here. Let us know, comment in some various ways, and we will get them added for you and or considered for you in
I'll
the
happily
future.
take the request as well. Maybe we can get a page going for them, similar
Yeah,
to our ideas page.
maybe.
I do love though how after years of like, hey, can we have that Power BI, shared out? You're like, you know what? We're going to build something totally different. I love it.
Yep.
I'm just here for it. I'm here for the absolute.
Well, they're
like,
two totally separate things, Brian.
I like to believe in giving the people what they don't want. I'm a huge fan of it.
And didn't ask for. I love it.
And didn't ask for either. I'm a huge fan of giving the people what they didn't want and didn't ask for. With that being said, though, Brian, it's over to you. But we are working.
Speaking of things people didn't want and didn't ask for.
I'm going to give it right to Brian.
Just handing it off.
Yeah, but we will actually, in all seriousness, there are screenshots of the Power BI report that are up there on the website this time around, and I will work on, maybe if I get really ambitious, I will remove all of the data that you guys can't have and let you download it, a copy of it in the future. There's some data in there that we still need to remove.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some of the fun stuff that's happened in the last month or so. In patching news, you might remember a couple months ago, patches were released and people were like, hey, why is there this empty inet pub folder sitting in the root of my C drive? And then the next month, people are like, looks like you can just delete it. Microsoft apparently suggested you don't do that, but they know that some of you did. So here, they actually released on the PowerShell gallery, they went and added a PowerShell script for you to go add that back in. I haven't actually looked at the script, but it's like, is it literally just creating? I wish I had a chance to go download this and take a look. My guess is it's just creating the folder and setting the ACLs as it needs to be. But if you did that, go ahead and you might want to take a look at this and put that back. Other patching news, I don't have a link for this, but if you are still running some Surface Hub V1s, June's update basically bricks them. So don't do that. At the same time, yes.
I want to teach you something. Scroll down and click on the file list option.
Yeah, I'm not doing this right now.
What? But you can see the file right there. You can see what it does if you click on the PS1 option.
Okay, I know.
Bam! Now people can see what it does.
Who's got time for this?
You don't want to read PowerShell code live?
It's
so beautiful.
Yeah, it's even formatted. I love it. I
know. It's formatted prettily even. I love it. It's got test paths.
It's signed?
It's signed code, no less. A rare exception that we see sometimes out
Beautiful.
Here. It literally just creates a folder and sets permissions, though. That's all it does.
Of course it does. I mean, it's literally kind of set that right there it's right there in the name.
I wonder if it was written by AI.
Lordy, looks pretty good. Again, Surface Hub 1s, if you're running them, don't update. The secure boot fix that we're going to talk about in a hot second, it breaks them. At the same time, the Windows 10 edition of that goes end of life in October, so I don't know. You do you. The update that was released for Patch Tuesday for Office or M365 apps included the fix for the high CPU while you're typing in Outlook. So if that was impacting you, yay. Hopefully that's fixed this month. If you are some of the Broadcom customers that have begun testing Proxmox, I have seen a couple of anecdotal evidence that Server 2025 has an issue when you install this month's update. I'm hearing reports of people getting a unsupported CPU BSOD at the end of it. So if that is you, pay extra close attention this month and you might want to do some extra testing. Again, that's on Server 2025 running in Proxmox. With that, we're going to shift over to some security news. I put the links here in the chat earlier. It may not be in the resources. Sorry, Natalie. But this is the thing that Jordan was talking about. So this is the WebDAV issue. And essentially, basically, you have a vulnerability in Internet Explorer, which you might not think is on your machine, but it actually is. And critically, they can use this to basically drop some arbitrary malware. So go ahead and patch that soon. And as Jordan said, I included a link to these patches. What's notable here is it goes way, way back, not just server 2012, but all the way back to server 2008, which I think is long out of even ESU range.
Very much so.
Yeah. That usually means, the reason we say that is because usually that means it's pretty bad. Here's another one that I haven't read deeply into. This is a privilege escalation vulnerability specific to domain controllers running on server 2025. Basically, it allows a privilege of escalation issue, and in theory, it works with the default configuration. Microsoft kind of thinks it's a medium severity because you need to have a specific set of rights to exploit this. But in this researcher's words, which we should take with a grain of salt, he said, 91% of environments he's looked at have that. So if you're running a domain controller on a server 2025 box, you should pay attention to this. There is some workarounds, or at least some indicators of compromise that you should look for, but there is no patch, although it is supposedly in the works. Although I looked to see if it was released in June, and the answer, that, as far as I can tell, is no. Moving along, super fun things. Browser extensions, we've talked about them before, and shocking, some people decided to create a fake version of KeePass to get access to your secrets, obviously, and have used that to go ahead and do some fun ransomware attacks. So I guess, make sure that your browser extensions are legitimate. Speaking of browser extensions, Firefox is actually coming out with a new feature to basically look for crypto scams. And so this is both like trying to break into your crypto wallet, but also, I believe, just trying to run a crypto miner on the machine. So this is Mozilla adding a feature that checks the extensions that you might install for these kinds of vulnerabilities. I'm not going to talk at length about this, but as Jordan mentioned, there was yet another 0-day release for Chrome late last month. So if you patch Chrome, you want to make sure, you might want to take extra special attention this month again to make sure that that's actually getting out, is fully released and getting traction in your environment. Moving along, let's see here. A whole bunch of, we've talked before about ASUS routers, and over the last year or so, we've seen a significant number of remotely controlled, remote executable vulnerabilities. And what's interesting here in this read is that what they're doing is they're actually adding basically their own backdoor. So they're using those vulnerabilities to add SSH keys, I think it is, but they're doing it using the official routers APIs to do so. So if you were vulnerable before and they added this key, and then you update your firmware to be to fix, you're still going to have this backdoor. So this was, and the point here is they're actually noticing that people are doing that. So it kind of relates a little bit to previous exploits that now have some lingering things. So if you are running any ASUS routers, and I think these are mostly talking about home consumer routers, not anything in enterprise, you might want to go ahead and take a check there. I don't know anybody. I've never heard of Hewlett Packard Store Once, which is a backup software, I believe, or some along those lines. If you are, a whole bunch of really bad stuff came out for it. As you can see here, a whole litany of CVEs, including several that list remote code execution and authentication bypass. Those are two things you don't really want to see in the same sentence, and yet here we are. So if you are an HP Store Once customer, you absolutely want to kind of accelerate that patching and get on it. Similarly, this is interesting. I don't fully understand the impact of this one. So Cisco Identity Services Engine had a pretty bad vulnerability. You can see it's base 9.9, which is, 1 point off being as bad as it can get. What's interesting here, though, it's specific to the Cisco ISE being deployments in cloud. So if you're deploying this to AWS or Azure or Oracle, you may want to go check those deployments and update those deployments to make sure that they are not vulnerable for this thing. It basically boiled down to, as all too often it does, I believe there's some static credentials that get used, and that's not good. Shocking. So we've talked before about supply chain attacks, npm/NuGet/whatever you want to call. And this month they found 16 different packages specifically to React Native. Aria is the package, but it's it has 1 million downloads a month, which probably means it's being used by a fair number of projects. And sure enough, some threat actors got access to their repos / npm repository, package repository, and were able to go ahead and upload some vulnerable packages that included their own malware. So again, I'm not sure what you can do about that, but it sucks. This one came out a while ago too, actually just a few days ago. So somebody found a way to basically brute force the phone number of a Google account. So if you have a Google account, it basically has to be tied to a phone number. And when they say brute force, it literally is there's a way, there's basically an API call that they could use to say whether or not this account was assigned to this number. And so you could just brute force that. There was no detection on somebody just slamming that API. At least that's what my take on this was. So, in the US, it might take a few hours to figure out what that phone number is. In other countries, it could be done in a number of minutes. Just really depends on how many phone numbers exist there. So the good news, Google did go ahead and I believe just full on just deprecated the API that they were using. So this is no longer a problem. But man, that's just kind of funny in some way. Like, man, you can brute force somebody's phone number from Google. That's not great. This is another big one that I think you alluded to, Jordan, earlier. I forget. There is a secure boot bypass this month. And there's another set of patches. This is the one that actually impacts that whole hub, Surface Hub v1 thing. So they've had to go and change, I think, what certs are authenticated or allowed to use for secure boot. I forget what the details on this one was, but there's going to be another update this month. So be aware of that. This is interesting. So we're moving on from direct security incidents. NIST, which is something that Jordan and I have been working with in our CVEs insights, they've come out with this interesting idea. We talk about CVSS base scores, and that usually is kind of it tries to tell you how bad something is. And they're talking about adding a new metric that basically says, how likely is this to be exploited? Because often you can have a vulnerability, I think we even talked about some of them here, which is like, well, it is technically a vulnerability, but it's not actually currently being exploited, often because it's really hard. And so they're talking about trying to add some metric for, okay, this isn't currently exploited, which is the thing they track. So they actually track, hey, do we see this being exploited in the wild or not? And those get updated when they find those exploits. This is trying to add how likely is this to be exploited? And this is actually kind of important because we can say, hey, the base score is, 9.9, and that's bad because it's a rating out of 10, and 10 is the worst. And so it can be really, really bad, but also it's also can be really, really unlikely to be exploited because reasons, right? You might need a high level of access to the machine.
Because who uses on-prem Exchange anymore?
Right. It's that kind of thing, right? And so this is interesting. We're going to watch it as it gets developing, and they're not releasing this. This is just something they're starting to talk about, I think. I actually think this would be really cool because you're going to say, yeah, this thing is bad, but also not likely to be exposed. Moving on. So,
Bryan? Oh,
what's that?
Never mind. Nothing,
I'm
Bryan.
sorry.
Keep going, man.
You froze for a moment. That's all. Just keep rambling.
Fair enough. The ramblings shall continue until morale improves. Just a quick note that Google has let it made known that they're actually going to drop a couple of root CAs. Let's see, I have them on my notes. There's one that is from Taiwan and another from Hungary. they basically just said, yeah, we're sick of these guys. And so they're going to drop them, which I guess means I'm not sure what you can do about this other than to maybe take a look and see if you're using any services that use those certs from those CAs. But this is a warning. So hopefully, again, I don't think there's much you can do about this right now, but be aware when that happens. It's going to be July. It's going to happen at the end of next month. If you see things going wonky, maybe that's the reason. Sometimes I want some semi-good news. So the German Department for Data and Freedom of Information went ahead and fined Vodafone like $51 million for some shenanigans they did. I don't even know what the shenanigans were, but hey, it's nice to know that sometimes people are actually called account. Microsoft, likewise, they went ahead and got a court order and seized 2,300 domains to take down a botnet that was impacting over 4,000 machines, 400,000, machines around the world. So, hey, it's nice to know that every once in a while, the good guys actually get a win. Moving on to just some more generic Windows Microsoft news. Hey, VBScript, if you didn't know, that is being deprecated. Microsoft wrote a blog middle of last month. So if you think, or it's worth a read, if you have any VBScript in there, and that includes things like MDT is VBScript. If you have, any packages in ConfigMgr or heck, GPO for that matter, that are running VBScript, go ahead and you're going to read through this and prepare for that, as it is coming. Microsoft also announced a public preview of a feature called Windows Backup for Organizations. I haven't really read into it. If that interests you at all, go ahead and take a look. Similarly, I haven't read deeply into this one. I had it sitting on a unread tab for basically 3 weeks. But this is something for developers / software vendors to add administrative protection to their app. If you are a user of the Microsoft Authenticator app, and my guess is most of you are, I didn't even know that it had the ability to populate passwords in your mobile device, but apparently it did, and it's not going to do that anymore. So just FYI, if you're using that feature, next month they are going to discontinue it. And shocking, but they also similarly kind of announced that, hey, Edge for Business, I'm not even sure exactly what for business means here, but you can actually do secure password deployment, which sounds a lot like, hey, we can populate passwords in a browser. Lastly, just kind of a fun little thing. Just a wonderful feel-good story about people running like super, super old software. I think earlier we were joking about how the U.S. Federal Aircraft Aviation Administration is talking about, hey, we should get rid of floppies, and how Southwest is running actual floppies on Commodores. Here's just a fun feel-good story about here's all these multi-million or sometimes billion-dollar industries that have this little chunk of it running on super old pieces of software, and they have absolutely no hope of ever getting off those old OS. This is feel-good news of the week. Intune. So they have released a voluntary remediate agent to public preview. So this is, I believe, kind of an AI Copilot-y kind of thing where you can ask it questions about, hey, how can I make this machine more secure? So that sounds interesting. If you are using the Microsoft Intune Suite, EPM or Endpoint Privilege Manager, they just added active explicit deny rules. So you can, before you could only make rules for things you want to auto elevate. Here you can say these specific things never get to elevate. And they also added, and this is interesting, and I'm looking to test it out. They also added cross-platform device inventory. So they added some device inventory for Windows, and now we also have that for Android, iOS, and Mac. Okay. With all of that said, the last thing I'm going to do, the last blog here, is the one that Angie wrote, and why we have asked Angie to join. So this, you can get the link here in the resources tab. But Angie has been working on something she's called Unified Future for App Updates on Windows. And I asked Angie to join us, in part because I've had a lot of people read this blog and then reach out and be like, wait a minute, what does that mean for as a system administrator, hey, we're going to go use this. I mean, I actually literally had somebody say, hey, we're going to go start using this instead of patch my PC. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting take. And so I've asked Angie to come on and kind of explain what this is, and to some degree, what it isn't, so that we can all kind of get on the same page. So with that, thanks for joining us, Angie. Take it away.
All right. Thanks, Bryan. Yeah, so some of you may or may not have read this article that we posted in the IT Pro blog. There were a couple of other articles that were written by non-Microsoft parties. And so I think that caused some misconceptions about what we're actually building here, who we're building it for. And so that's what I'm here to talk about today. So let me just back up a little bit and talk about why we are building this unified platform for orchestrating updates. So today, for all of the products that you have updating on Windows, I'm really sorry about the slow-mo video. I don't know what's going on today with my laptop, but let's just see if we can power through this. So as an IT admin today, you're probably managing tons of different products that are updating on Windows, and they all have their own separate policies you can set for them, deadlines you can set for them, and they're kind of distributed across all of the different product offerings. And so our thought was, well, these are all updates that are happening on Windows. So why would we not try to have a unified set of policies that can make it more streamlined and easier for system administrators to manage all the products that are running on Windows? And then on the flip side, for the end users, with all of these different installers that are operating independently on a device, that can lead to CPU spikes when the user is actively using the device. It can lead to confusing or conflicting notifications that are coming up from Office, from Windows Update, from third-party applications. And so there's really an opportunity as well to simplify the end user experience through a unified platform as well. And so essentially what we are building is a set of APIs that will allow a software developer, product team, software vendor who is currently building applications or management tools for applications that run on Windows, to plug into the Windows Update Orchestrator, which is the current inbox system that orchestrates your Windows updates today and takes into account whether or not the user is active on the device, whether this is a sustainable time to update, and many other factors to determine whether or not it's a good time to download, install various updates that are already going through the Windows Update platform. We want to extend these scheduling capabilities to other applications and products that are plugged into our system via these APIs. And so that's kind of a short summary of what it is we're building, what it is not, and I think some of what caused the confusion around the blog and the articles is that we're not trying to solve any offering or distribution problems. This is purely about how can we use the Windows Update orchestration system that exists on the device today that is good about scheduling your Windows updates at opportune times to extend that capability to other applications and updates that might need to happen on Windows, and at the same time, make it an easier experience, a more seamless experience for the system administrators and the end users who are interacting with these updates. And so we are not trying to say, hey, if you're like already in Microsoft Store today, or if you're publishing drivers to the Hardware Dev Center, to instead publish with us and we will distribute your update through Windows Update. That's not what we're saying. If you are publishing anything to the Microsoft Store or Hardware Dev Center, or you're using your existing management tool, that is still our recommended path. This is more for the ISVs, software developers and product teams who may already have their own client on the device that is already orchestrating updates or already managing updates, or are thinking about building their own client or agent on the device to go do these things. That's who we are really targeting for private preview this upcoming month. So likely, this is like a no further action needed for most folks on this call. But if you are interested or have further questions, or you're saying like, hey, I have this really specific use case where we built our own client and it's managing updates for a specific like line of business application that we have, that might apply to you. And so if you have further questions, feel free to just email me. I'll drop my email in the chat, so you can reach out if you have further questions. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. But if there are other questions that folks have right now, feel free to ask them. I'm here
Yeah, toss them
time.
toss them in the Q&A. I'll ask you a couple, Angie. Like, can you explain what the USO is? Because I kind of say that acronym, and this is the thing you're sort of building in, right? So, and often I think people, how do I say this? There's like the Windows Update agent itself, but then around that is the actual USO. And then if people are using ConfigMgr, it actually doesn't use either of those things. And so can you just, I don't know, and it's a legitimate question because it may not be easy to do, but like, can you actually explain what is the USO and its role in the update stack?
Sure. So just like a simple explanation of, so USO is the update stack or update session orchestrator. USO has a decision engine essentially that is able to determine whether or not it now is a good time to do certain update work. And so when we talk about update work, right, there's like scans, there's downloads and installs at a very high level. And depending on certain factors that are currently present on the device, like whether or not the user is using the device, whether or not we're outside of active hours, whether or not your device is plugged into plugged into AC power, whether or not this is like a good sustainable time where there's like minimal additional pressure on the power grid. We take into all these factors and then determine whether or not it's a good time to perform certain update work. And if not, we schedule it later to basically try to opportunistically perform update work. And if now is not a good time, then we try to schedule it for later. So USO is kind of like this added layer in the update stack that does the scheduling today around Windows updates, as well as a couple of the other different types of updates that are coming through the Windows update pipeline.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, thanks. Yeah, because it's helpful. It's one of those scenarios where the actual naming is correct. It's an orchestrator, right? And the thing I want to like clarify for people, like it doesn't do the scan. It doesn't do the download.
That's true.
It doesn't do the install. It orchestrates those things at the correct time. And so what's interesting here, it is an opportunity for vendors, whether it's a vendor of individual products, like, Chrome and Firefox, or, whatever, like literally anything, but also vendors like us, Patch My PC, to integrate with that orchestrator and get the user experience of normal first-party updates.
Yes, so that's also true. as part of this experience, right, once you're onboarded to USO through these APIs, you get to also use the notifications that are modeled after what we currently use for Windows Update. And so if you're an organization like a sysadmin and you have deadlines for these applications, you can specify a deadline, and we will try to notify you before the deadline saying, hey, your organization requires you to update these applications, take some sort of action before the deadline. And then once we get to the deadline, we basically force the application installation in the same way that we do for Windows updates. And so you get to take advantage of the existing infrastructure and the notifications that are currently built for Windows updates for your application updates as well. It'll look slightly different. It'll say like apps instead of Windows updates. But the idea is the same.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and toss them in the Q&A. Joe, you asked, will the Windows Update orchestrator apply to PatchMyPC Updater? I'm not, if you're talking about Home Updater or just like PatchMyPC in general, that's actually why, so I've known Angie now for a few years. And so when I saw that blog post, well, actually, Angie and I had actually talked a few months ago about this. And so, yeah, we are actually going to take a look and see what, or if we can, what, if anything, we can do here. I think, Angie, and it's safe to assume that at least early on, this is going to be in Windows 11, 25, whatever. How far it gets backported is to be determined, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll get backported to Windows 10, but we are trying to backport at least to Windows 11. Don't hold me.
Well,
that's not a sworn promise.
And then there's servers. And then there's servers.
Yes, and then there's servers. I also do want to say we're still in pretty early stages of this. So the blog post, I think, talks about preview. It's really a private preview. And so at this point, thankfully, due to all the articles that were written and the amount of interest there was a lot of interested parties. And so we're still sorting out as well, because we're in the early stages of it, which parties are kind of best suited for this private preview versus public preview or GA. And so, just appreciate everyone's patience around this as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Angie. And with that, I think we're done. Thank you all for spending only 45 minutes this time. We were actually on time. Nicely done. You're muted.
We ran efficient.
We were efficient. You wasted a perfectly good 45 minutes, Wilson. We thank you.
It's not done yet, Brian. We still
I know, but I'm trying to give the video some closure here, Jake.
No closure.
No closure.
Can we get Jake to rotate the rest of his senior pictures for his headshots? I think I've only got the one up on the website. It's only 13 years old at this point. I still have the baby face, so I think it's pretty accurate.
I was gonna say, and you look the exact same. Wait. It's all right. I too suffer from the curse of apparent vampirism, where I just seem to not age throughout the years.
When I'm 60, it'll pay off. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Is that because you're sucking the life out of me? That's why I look old.
Well,
I don't think we interacted enough,
so many
Brian.
meetings
To be
with me,
sucking
Brian.
the life out of you that much.
Dude. Well, I talked to Jordan a lot.
That's fair.
That's fair.